Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Games, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the Snobbish Show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. I want to thank you all for joining us for the latest episode of the Snobbish Show. We took a little bit of an unexpected break last week, but we are back in full effect for this week. We want to thank each of you for your continued support of the show. If you want to get some exclusive content and watch our show live, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobawestcast to become a Patreon supporter. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We have quite a few things that we want to talk about. So let's get into it. First things first, there was a new update that was dropped just yesterday, I believe, for iPad and iOS 16.5, watchOS 9.6. Ventura got an update, and tvOS got an update as well. So let's talk a little bit about what we got, particularly in the iOS update. I think there were a couple of exploits that were identified on the security front that were fixed as well. I think one of them, I want to say, I saw on my iPad. I think it was a rapid response. Was that from the previous one?
That was from the previous one.
That was a previous one. Okay. And the latest one, like I said, it pretty much the whole suite of Apple products got an update. And again, the biggest one I believe was there were two security exploits that were patched. So for sure, if you have not done that already, definitely if you don't update anything else, definitely update your iPhone and your iPad because there were some security related updates to that.
But again, ain't that what the rapid security response is supposed to be about? See, this is I'm almost to the point where I'm getting mad now. It's like, Apple, what are you going to do? Are you going to put all of the security exploits, flaws, all the things that should be code red updates in this rapid security response to where you just push that out and it just patches those things, and then you're going to relegate the dot versions or the full next, I forget what they call them, iterative slash whatever versions for new features. You get new this, you get new that, you get new this, that, and the third, right? It's like, ain't that wasn't the whole purpose? So why are we seeing 16.6
Yeah.
and it's 9.6 and 13.5 and 6.6, these dot updates with
Yeah.
no updates? It's just
Yeah,
security
and that
stuff.
was yeah, and that was the thing. That's why I was like, wait a minute, because I remember seeing the rapid notification on my iPad, but I know I hadn't been on my iPad in a minute. That's why I was like, wait a minute, because on Ventura it was just the security fixes. So that should have been a rapid. And I think for tvOS and watchOS, I'm looking at some of the notes now, it is security flaws. So I don't I'm not sure, kind of like you, it doesn't seem to be a delineation anymore between security fixes and feature fixes because it doesn't appear as if there are any
Or
features
bugs.
or
This is
bugs that
security
are
stuff.
being fixed. Right. It seems to be all security. And Apple did say, that two of the flaws that were fixed may have been actively exploited. So
Hmm.
that means that they may have actually been, some people who are susceptible to this vulnerability.
Right.
So to me, again, like you said, the understanding is the rapid response is for
Address stuff
vulnerabilities and security flaws that could have
are important.
significant impact
Mhm.
on the security of your device, but they did it as a regular update. So I don't even know if they know at this point
Yeah, we don't know what's going
what they're
on.
doing. I don't think they even know cuz like I looked at the notes um from Apple support, and it looks it well, no, it did. So it did a Apple Neural Engine update and a Find My update along with the security stuff.
So
So
those
that's
2
why.
things
Those 2
is
things,
why it was just a regular dot
a regular
update
update.
versus a rapid
Right.
security response.
But looking at the list of the things that it fixed, those 2 things seem a relatively minor to
Right.
there's like 4, 5 kernel fixes. There looks like there are a couple of library fixes. There are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 WebKit fixes. So to me, I don't know if they can make the decision to say, you know what? Yeah, we have these 2 feature fixes or bug fixes, but we have 15 security related
Mhm.
fixes. Let's just do this as a rapid and call it a day.
Right.
I would think that would be smarter than just doing it as a regular update when you have relatively minor bug fixes
And
with
when you've
this
got
many security
iOS
fixes.
and when you got iOS 17 around the corner, right? So it's like
Right,
couldn't those 2 things that you mentioned, couldn't they could have waited? Were
right,
they that
and put
important?
those in 7 right. It's I don't know, it's I don't know. And I have to say, even as an Apple lover, lately, stuff that the way they've been managing the rollouts of certain things, it's giving
Like they
me,
scrambling.
like, they're scrambling that is not up to the usual high standard that we've all come to expect from
Mhm.
Apple, and it's dimming a little bit of the shine. The chrome is fading a little bit. The diamond isn't sparkling as much. We are no longer on a VVS diamond. We are, on a
Or
HP?
or maybe equal as much attention by hackers, by people looking to exploit software vulnerabilities are paying equal, if not more, attention to Apple as they are with Microsoft, right? That was the
Right.
big thing. That was my big thing as to why Apple never really gets all of these vulnerabilities and never gets hacked or things like that. Because there
Mhm.
simply were not enough when a hacker is looking to make damage, do damage. They're looking
Mhm.
to do as much damage as possible with little work as with as little as work as possible, right?
Mhm.
There's millions and millions and millions of Microsoft Windows computers. You think of the type of person that's using those computers, they may not be as technically savvy.
Mhm.
The products may be a little bit cheaper. So it's like, all right, we're going to go for those. There's only a smaller version of people using Apple, Mac, devices. And, Apple does a good job of locking that stuff down. The software, not a lot of third party developers use Apple's software. So, and forget them. We're going to focus on all these devices with all these people and these cheap products, right? Now, millions and millions of people use iPhones, we use iPads, we use Safari, we use Mac OS now. Now, the hackers like, all right, now we're cooking with grease as far as, and Apple's mad popular. They're like the number one company on the planet if I'm, if
Yeah.
arguably, right? So
Right.
that's a lot of tension. So the hackers are like, all right, now it's worth the effort to hack into Apple or exploit and deploy some bad code or whatever to, like you said, dim the shine of Apple. It couldn't be, it's probably nothing Apple's doing. They're
Mhm.
trying to scramble, they're trying to fix this stuff as fast as possible, but maybe like I said, they've got new attention.
And it both the question is, all these years, has Apple security been that good, or have hackers really not focused on it so much?
That's a good question.
Because it seems very suspicious that as of recent years, there are a lot of vulnerabilities and exploits that are being found
And
and
patched up
actually
and
exploited.
mhm.
And it just seems suspicious to me that now in the last 5 or so years that this has come to light and we're seeing all of these issues when before it was it was like Apple is, we don't need antivirus protection because our software is just that good. So it makes me wonder, is the security that good, or did nobody really try it because of the perception that it was that good? And now
Right.
they're like, let's try and see what's there. And they're like, ooh, this is just a smorgasbord of things for us to exploit. So,
It's
uh,
probably hard, but for you to there's some claim to fame for you to
yeah,
be able to, exploit or find and exploit. They got
yeah,
Apple, I'm pretty sure they have recognize people for finding vulnerabilities outside of Apple. So, there may be some, badge of honor to be able
hmm,
to find and alert Apple to a uh, vulnerability or security flaw or something like that. So people are
right.
actively white hacking. Is that what they call it? What do they call
Wait
it? White
for
hacking?
the good or for the bad?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think they call it white hacking.
Yeah,
White hat.
white hat.
White hat. So maybe
Yes.
there's a lot of people doing that and they are finding these bugs, not anything that's being exploited for the most part, but there are more people looking at Apple software and finding bugs, which is why Apple has to pump out these, iterative updates because so many peeps, everybody's looking at Apple now when it wasn't that the case 5, 10 years ago.
And I think we did a story, some months back about the bounty program. I think Apple upped the
Bounty
ante on their
program is what I
bounty
was looking for.
program.
Yeah, right.
So I think, hmm, maybe. I don't know. It's a question, to kind of float out there to kind of see what's really going on. But,
Right.
nonetheless, if you have any Apple products, please do the update because there are security updates for all of the Apple products out there. Next up, Vision Pro. We haven't talked about that in a while. It was really hot and heavy. People were all about the VR headset that Apple announced at WWDC. Well, Apple has announced that there are developer kits for Apple Vision Pro that if you are in the Apple Developer Program, you can apply for one of the developer kits. Now, it's not going to be easy to get one of these because the developer kit actually does include a headset. So, in order to get one of the developer kits, you're going to have to be pretty specific with what you are going to do with this. So it's not going to be one of those things where I have a developer um
Account.
I'm in the developer program, right? So it's not just like, "Ooh, I want to play with it. Let me see. Let me submit and apply." No. In order to apply, you have to be again in registered in the Apple Developer Program, but in order to in your application that you submit, you have to detail exactly what project you're going to work on and what project you plan to bring to Vision OS, what you plan to put in the App Store. So it's not just one of those things where you can kind of go in and tinker around. I kind of have an idea about this. I kind of have an idea about that. They want concrete documentation related to what you are going to do with this developer kit. Because again, you know, just putting it out there and just giving these things out like they did the Mac Studio for developers to work on. This is, probably the highest profile
It's the next
device that
the
they've
one
come
more
out.
thing. This is the
Right. Yeah,
mhm,
this is the thing. So it's not something that they're going to part with easily. Additionally, it's one of those things where they're like, this is not your device. This is being loaned to you. Also, there are specifications around how you manage the device storage. So they're saying it has to be in a quote private, secure workspace accessible only by you and your authorized developers. And Apple will also do regular check ins with these developers, and they will need to return the kit when it is requested. So, again, it's not one of those things where it's just like, hey, we want to try something out. There are very specific parameters around getting these devices. I'm sure they probably have some sort of tracking attached to the devices, probably built in for the demo kits that they're sending out just so that they can probably have a visual of where, the device actually is. We already know how good the AirTag technology is. I wouldn't be surprised if they have an AirTag or something similar or some similar tech built in to the unit so they can keep track of it, because they just can't, honestly, they just can't trust people to say, "Yeah, I'm going to keep it locked up. I'm not going to let anybody else come and see it. It's just going to be, I promise." I don't think they're going to
Trust.
rely on that. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're gonna do all this, and you gotta detail exactly what project you're doing, gotta go through the scrutiny to actually get it. You gotta keep it locked up. It's gotta do regular check-ins, and you gotta return it whenever Apple says you can go through all that, and I guarantee you this thing will show up on YouTube in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Somebody doing a in-depth review of the Vision Pro. This is a developer. I can't my sources, I can't really I guarantee you Apple's gonna do all this stuff to ensure
Yeah.
that, only developers looking to enhance the experience for the end users is gonna show up on YouTube. And people are going to fine tooth comb it.
I
Now, of
wouldn't be
course,
surprised if somebody tries to break it apart and look at the components. They're going to try all kinds of things. But I personally think these kits aren't going to go out to any new developers. I would be very surprised if they go
Apple's
out to any
probably
new.
they
They're
probably
going to probably go with legacy people, like people who've been in the program for years. They're going
and
to
not
go and
even
look up
people, big
people's YouTube.
companies, not
Yeah.
like Adobe
Yeah.
and, game, like Microsoft's, Activision Blizzard and some of these big, big, big names, but they just put it out there that the developer kits are available. But I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure Apple knows exactly who these things are going to. You could have all the best intentions on creating the dopest app. And if Apple don't know you or you don't know somebody, you can forget about it. You're not getting in
Yeah.
because
Like I said, I think it's really gonna be people who've been in the developer program for years. Like I said, they're probably gonna scour their YouTube channels, see what type of other content they've done to
I'm pretty
see if they're
sure
likely to do something like this.
I'm pretty sure developers who have a social media presence won't get this. I'm pretty sure it'll be relegated to, people who are
You're
companies,
hardcore, and I'm using air
company,
quotes for people who are listening.
right?
Yeah. You're
Corporations,
hardcore developers. Yeah.
yeah, corporations that are bringing these services to the
Yeah.
Vision Pro because it's too tempting. It's
Yeah.
too tempting to give it to a regular developer for them to have this thing in their hand and say, "Sure, I could be developing the next best Vision Pro application or service,
A
but
billion-dollar app.
that ain't gonna help these views. That ain't gonna help this my
Yeah.
YouTube channel pop off. So let me figure out a slick it'd be too tempting. We talked
Yeah.
about in the pre-show about how tempting social media is for people just to do crazy things just for the sake of getting attention on social media. So I'm pretty sure Apple's like, nope, we're just going to put out this disclaimer or put out this notice that the developer kits are available, but we only handpicking certain companies to do it because we can't trust y'all because y'all shown that y'all will fall to temptation every single time
Every
because
single time.
Apple has the cases, and every year a case maker reveals specific parts about the iPhone because the case got leaked. And I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure the case was linked. I'm pretty sure the creator, the manufacturer of the case was like, let me get some extra special attention, let me get these extra hits, and somehow leak the specifications of an iPhone because we had to make a case. And as a result, the makeup of the case shows you the new features of the iPhone. It happens every single year. So I'm pretty sure Apple's like, nope, we ain't doing that. We don't care who you are. We got to know you in order to get this Vision Pro.
Right. So it will be interesting to see what leaks come from this and if there are any consequences um, from the folks who leaked this.
Absolutely,
So
because
yeah.
Apple put out that busted that one guy who his sister worked at Apple
Yep.
and Apple put out that false information and wouldn't you know it, somebody working at Apple, they family member got a hold of it and leaked it all over the internet. And they're like, well, sorry, not only will you never be associated with Apple, we firing your sister. So,
Yeah. And the sister is not the one who even put it out there.
but
It was the sibling. Yeah.
it's too tempting. It's
Yeah.
too tempting. So I was like, yeah, we're not playing that game no more.
Yeah. And it sounds like I think we talked about it. They put out they craft certain leaks and attach them to people, and they can see when something leaks. They have like a sheet where they can go back and say, "We told this lie to this
Hmm.
person, so we know who to go after." So, with something this high profile as Vision Pro, trust and believe they have some things hidden, that they'll be able to easily trace back to.
It's called a canary
Yeah.
trap, is the
Yeah. Yep.
methodology
That
that
was
they
the term.
use.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. All right. We all know about OpenAI's ChatGPT 3. Well, apparently we have an Apple quote unquote GPT. Apple has already developed their own in-house chat box. They are using it internal to Apple. At this point, no one knows what this chat bot is going to develop into, if anything, or how it will be used. It's just being reported now that it is out there and it is being used. And of course, we all know about your girl. I won't say her name because all the devices in my house will light up. Um, but I'm not surprised that Apple has its own version. I'm not surprised that Apple hasn't said
Join this
they
arms race.
have this, because everybody else, yeah, we have our own GPT. We
Hmm.
have our own, everybody, every company has been talking about what they have, what they're coming up with, what they're doing. And, in typical Apple form, they've kept it pretty close to the vest. Um, but Mark Gurman of Bloomberg, who is a known quote unquote insider of information, take that with a grain of salt, has mentioned in his newsletter that the chatbot helps employees with their different prototype features, summarizing text and answering questions based on data that it's been trained with. Again, take this with a grain of salt, on his inside information, but um, this shouldn't be a shock to anyone that Apple has come up with their own chatbot.
And it kind of aligns with how I feel about this whole AI and Chat GPT and OpenAI. Everybody right now that are out publicly saying we got it, right?
Hmm.
It seems like a solution looking for a problem. And I kind of feel like personally, I'm going to sit back and wait and find out when there's an actual problem and see how this new AI resolves that issue, before I say, you know what, that's what we need to use AI for. I'm kind of waiting for that moment, and it seems like Apple's kind of doing that too. They're
Hmm.
keeping it in house. They're keeping it internal. They're letting certain employees use it for internal things, kind of help their productivity, and they're kind of waiting to see if there is a quote unquote magic bullet that Apple can then deploy their own you know, large language model AI, whatever you want to call it, generative AI, and deploy that for end users, if at all. Like I said,
Hmm.
we still, I don't care what nobody says, we are not out of the realm of this is just a fad, right?
Right.
Because just three, 2, 3 years ago, Bitcoin was it. Blockchain was it. Web3 was it. That's all we talked about. That's all we talked
Decentralized
about.
web is it's the
We
wave of the
don't need the
future.
banks no more. You can use Bitcoin to set up your own blockchain so you can do all these super crazy things. We had the Bitcoin blockchain experts doing courses and classes. And guess what? We ain't talking about no more. We ain't talking about blockchain no more. We ain't talking about Bitcoin no more. We ain't talking about Web3. When just a short 2 years ago, that's where
Right.
everything was going. Fast
Yeah.
forward to today, all we're talking about is OpenAI, generative AI, Chat GPT. Everybody, again, similar to Bitcoin, they got courses. People are join my master course on how to use AI. Everybody, Google, Microsoft, everybody's into it. And to me, it just is another trend. For now, I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, like I said, I'll take the L. I'll admit when I'm wrong. But just like blockchain, just like all that, we're not out of the realm of next year we'll be talking about something else. So it sounds like to me Apple kind of is mirroring my thoughts. Like we gonna hold on to it. We're not gonna be ignorant to it. We're gonna learn. We're gonna develop some
We're
things,
going
keep
to
the code.
perfect it in our space, but we're not gonna put it out there for anybody else to use. We're
And
gonna
then when
use it.
that eureka moment hits, then we'll deploy our
We'll be
thing and
ready.
we'll deploy it
Yep.
to our customers, and it's gonna be the Apple way.
Yeah. I don't think AI is a trend. I definitely think this generative text AI is a trend. And again, I think it's just the lack of knowledge and ignorance of the wider populace of what AI means and what AI includes. And right now, most people, when they think of AI, they think of text generative, and the space is so much larger. I think the text generative part of this will definitely die out as new ways or new systems within AI become more popular. Things will kind of start to take a bit of a backseat, or they will be less shiny. They'll still be used, people will still develop on them, but it won't be the shiny new toy that everybody is raving about like it is now. I give it maybe another few years, if that, before the next big shiny thing comes in and takes over the generative text AI
All right, that's
phenomenon.
fair. Look, I'm not an engineer. I'm not all in the middle of this. So I just had a feeling. It's like, all right, let me just wait. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
wait and see. I ain't gonna rule
yeah.
it out completely, but history has shown that we tend to jump from thing to thing. So I'm not gonna rule that out yet, but I'm certainly,
Mhm.
I definitely can see the use in general. I just haven't found that one thing. Like, you know what? That's a perfect thing, a perfect problem that AI can solve. And it
Right.
makes sense to me. I'm pretty sure there's out there people that can see the result, that can see the cause and effect and the problem things solve. And you more power to you. I just ain't seen it yet.
Yep. All right. So the UK might be about to talk themselves out of FaceTime and iMessage for its citizens. Currently, there is a law that the UK Parliament is trying to pass as it relates to the security around
And
messaging.
surveillance. Mhm.
And yeah, and Apple is is basically saying they aren't going to comply with what this act is purporting to do. So what that means is they will shut down iMessage, they will shut down FaceTime, because I think the crux of this, because I've read another article about this, is that the UK government wants to be able to scan people's messages to search for, say, child pornography.
Or
And
have a back
Apple is
door. Yeah, I'll just
right.
read it.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
Under planned changes to the Investigatory Powers Act of 2016, messaging services will be required to gain approval for security features and be prepared to disable them when ordered to do so. So that short sentence means if the UK government comes to Apple and says, "Hey, we need to scan this person's text messages. We need y'all to be able to flip a switch and let us in and scan their stuff." And then be able to do it immediately. So Apple can't be like, all right, well, we need to do a review. We need to get our people in. We need to get our lawyers involved. We need to, and we'll get back with you.
Basically, they'll be the authority on what they can scan and what they can, and Apple can't fight it.
And Apple can't fight it and without informing the public. So if the government wants to do this, they don't have to tell Apple why, and Apple can't tell nobody that the UK government has come to us to scan the messages
The
because of
phone
X,
of
Y, and
Wallaby
Z.
Bixby. Yeah.
Right, right. They can't tell nobody and they don't have to, right? So I think those are the couple points that Apple's like,
Yeah.
nah, we're not gonna do that. And if you still move forward with this, then we'll just have to pull iMessage and FaceTime, which, I can see a lot of UK users, consumers having a problem with that.
And honestly, in the article that I read, it's not just Apple who has an issue with the signal and WhatsApp are both saying that they are willing to pull their service from the UK if this goes if this act is implemented. So it's one of those things where we're talking about Apple specifically, but there are other chat services that are like, you know what? And I said specifically Signal. Those are the two apps that were in the other article that I read. Signal and WhatsApp saying we will not comply with this and we'll just pull our service from your country. And again, if you think about it on WhatsApp, that's basically the international, messaging service for people around the world. And when you think about it on iMessage or FaceTime, billions of people have iPhones and use iMessage. So it's one of those things where it's like there's a significant overstep. Um, And I think it's one of those things where, similar to here in the United States, you have these lawmakers who don't fully understand the scope of the technology. And they're basically trying to do things for basically votes or
Points.
campaign promises. I said I
Or
was going to do this.
Mhm.
See, I said this, or this is what I'm doing when it's really not feasible. And
or
what's going to end up happening, you're going to let a lot of your constituents down.
Right. Or they do know about the technology, but the other problem is if you provide a backdoor for this, the UK says we need a backdoor to scan for child pornography, right?
Mhm.
Apple does it. They can see it and they let them do it. What's stopping the UK government saying, hey, we've got these civil unrest and these
It's a
people are using
slippery slope.
iMessage to plan these revolts and, and revolt against the government. We need to scan these messages to find out who the main actors are so we can silence them. And
But the fact
Apple
that they
said,
don't even have to tell Apple what they're doing, they could do
right,
that anyway.
right.
Or
Well,
they any their political opponents, they could say, "Hey, I don't like this person, they run against me. Let's scan their device and see if they got anything I can use." So it's a
exactly. And
very
what
slippery slope.
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
why wouldn't the UK government saying, all right, let's go ahead and get in here and
Let's
do
get
it
our hands on this.
because they can. If you
Yeah.
can, very,
And
very
who are some of the most corrupt people? Politicians.
I'm not saying UK government is corrupt or anything like that, but again,
But they
if you
should
have the
be.
ability to do it, most people won't ask, well, is this a good idea?
Yeah,
Most people just do it.
exactly. And be like, "Oopsie later, well, it's the law.
hmm
You
It was
agreed."
important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, and honestly, I don't blame Apple, and for the protection of people's civil liberties and their right to privacy and their rights.
For good or
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Mhm.
good or bad. I mean, honestly, of course, there are some bad people out there. The majority of people are not. The majority of people aren't don't have child pornography or nefarious things on their phone, but at this point, the greater good is, are you willing to what's the saying?
Are you willing
The
to give up if you're willing to give up freedom for security, you don't deserve either. That's the one
Yeah,
I've heard. Yeah.
yeah. So so yeah, it will be very interesting to see if the UK Parliament still forges on with the knowledge that Apple is willing to pull the plug, as well as Signal, as well as WhatsApp. It'll be
Mhm.
very interesting to see if they move forward with this. And it's the one of the people who's a proponent of this, the Secretary of State, whatever their version, I think it's called a Home Secretary.
Mhm.
She's the person who has been spearheading sending um uh, many of the refugees from basically black
Um,
and brown countries
mhm.
to Rwanda.
Mhm.
She's the big proponent of that because I'm reading on the article and I saw her name. I was like, oh crap. If she's
Mhm.
involved in this is not good because she is a person of color, actually, whose family immigrated. But it's, people start to gatekeep and they forget, where they come from. And it's one of those things where now I'm in this position and I want to be a purveyor of white
We
supremacy.
have one of those
So,
in the United
yeah.
States Supreme Court.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right. And that's my thing is if they are saying now they're putting it under the guise of we're protecting children. Sounds familiar
Mm,
here in America, right?
mhm,
From child pornography, all those types of things. That's what they're saying now. But once they get that control, once they get you to buy in, it's just gonna go off the freaking rails. And it's going to be basically a free for all, similar to the Patriot Act and the overarching powers that the Patriot Act gave the
mhm.
U.S.
How they
government. I
terrorize
could see
Muslim
this.
communities. Mhm,
Yep, I could definitely see this going that route very easily. So
mhm.
it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. All right. That is going to wrap it up for the lowdown where we talked about all of the Apple things. Next, we're going to head on over to Second String, where we talk all other tech. We're going to kick it off with your boy, your fave, Mr. Elon Muskie. He decided that Twitter, after 20 years, needs to get rid of their branding um, and rename Twitter just simply the letter X. Um,
Mhm.
get rid of the
Bird.
bird, get rid of the blue, get rid of tweet, get rid of retweet is going to be a zeet now. I guess
Is
that's
that
how
what
you
they're
pronounce
calling
it.
it? I wasn't able to
It's
find
it's
any, uh
yeah.
no conclusive evidence as to the nomenclature around, using Twitter. I just thought it was
Yeah,
just like
I saw
the websites,
I
yeah, and the
yeah, I think
logos.
I don't know if I bookmarked it or not, but there was kind of like a FAQ page. I don't think it was specifically FAQ, but it was something like it, and said that a tweet will be known as a XEET. I said zeet, but then that sounds like a Z. How do you even pronounce an
I think it's a
exeat?
Z. I think it's with a Z,
A
like a
Z? That's what I
xylophone.
think. Yeah. So yeah, so he's basically saying that we're going to get rid of probably the most well
Iconic.
branded product
Mhm,
in probably history, the nomenclature that has been created from this app that everybody knows it's in universal language, and he thinks it'll be cool to basically use a Unicode standard X as the logo. Um, when I think Microsoft has the trademark for X for social media purposes, I think Meta has an X copyrighted and copyrighted for trademark copyright, one of the two, for social media purposes. He has X.com forwarded to Twitter,
mhm,
but not Twitter forwarding to X.com. So he had the letters taken off the headquarters in San Francisco, but the police stopped it because he didn't have a permit. So just the ER was on the building.
mhm.
Uh, the rest of it, the twit part, was taken down, and he's just, I don't even have the words to even to.
So what I've been able to surmise just by doing a little bit of research, I think Elon Musk is still on this. I'm looking to build the everything app to where not only is it just a social media platform, it's also, some sort of payments and or banking platform. It's a messaging service to where similar he's looking to
He's
bring
looking for
all
the
of the,
internet in one app.
not just the internet, just like the different functions we use the internet for. Some of us use it for news, some of us use it for, just social media and influencers. Some of us use it for, sending and receiving payments. Some of us use it for entertainment, movies, things of that nature. So he's looking to make Twitter into this everything app. And I think the thought process is Twitter, the branding, the wording, how we use Twitter is so specific that he would never really be able to add all of these other things into Twitter because it is Twitter. Twitter is more than a company, it's more than some branding, it's how we use this social media platform. So in my opinion, his thought was, okay, well, in order to make Twitter more than just what we use it for right now, I need to kind of de um identify it, I don't know what you would call it, make it,
Yeah.
you take away the branding, the low the
Take away the
stuff.
identity, basically
Right,
the identity of Twitter
right,
to make it something else
s
because he
right,
already has all these people on it. If he
right,
were to create a different X app, he would have to get people to go
right,
to X,
right,
whereas he already has millions of people on Twitter. He's like,
right,
let's just use these people.
right, right, but again, I think the problem he's gonna run into with that is we are conditioned to use different apps for different things.
Right.
I'm conditioned to use Twitter for finding the news, find out what's trending, find out what people are
Mhm.
talking about. I'm
Right.
conditioned to use Facebook to chat with friends and family
Friends
and
and family.
upload pictures of vacations. I'm conditioned to use Instagram to look at photos and videos from my favorite influencers. I'm
Mhm.
conditioned to use TikTok, for long, video, and I'm
Mhm.
conditioned. We're conditioned to use conditioned to use Cash App and Square and PayPal and Venmo and Zelle, to send and receive payments. I'm set in my ways, and I
Mhm.
don't know if this new branding is going to make me think that Twitter is also for pictures and videos and also for payments and also for, you know, interacting with friends and family, uploading vacation pics. I think most of us are compartmentalized for a reason. So him trying to de-identify, change the identity, lose the identity of Twitter in order to create something bigger. I don't know if that's gonna work.
Yeah. And in the infamous words from Coming to America, your mama named you Twitter. I'm gonna call you Twitter.
And so you bring up a good point, right? Because Marcus Brownlee, aka MKBHD, has the ear of Elon Musk just due to his popularity, Marcus
Mhm.
Brownlee's popularity, and the favor that Marcus Brownlee has, shown towards Elon Musk, just because Marcus Brown, he's cutting edge of technology. So, of course, he
Mhm.
drives a Tesla because at the time, Tesla's cutting edge of automotive technology. Elon Musk has invited him to the Tesla factory, and he did one of
Mhm.
the very few people outside of news journalists have been able to sit down and have an honest conversation with this dude. So
Mhm.
Marcus Brownlee has curried some favor with Elon,
Mhm.
right? So what you said, your mama call you Twitter, mama named you Twitter, I'm gonna call you Twitter.
Mhm.
Marcus Brownlee put in a tweet, I'm still gonna call it Twitter, and immediately Elon Musk responds back with not for long. So it's almost like a
It's a challenge for him.
gift and a
It's
curse, right?
yeah.
Because Marcus Brownlee, he just like all of us is like, this is stupid, but he
So
just can't say
stupid.
that no more because everybody's paying attention to him now. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Marcus Brownlee's like, oh, will this dude leave me alone? Because everything I tweet, he's on top of
He's
it.
responding. He probably has alerts for when this man
Hmm.
posts something. And it's it really goes to show we already knew this man was very short-sighted by the way the whole handling of Twitter. But you take one of the most recognizable brands
Hmm.
in the world
Hmm.
and try and change it to something else and make it something else. People come to Twitter for very specific reasons, and it's none of the stuff that he's saying he's going to use this X for.
Hmm.
Nobody comes for that. And I'm not giving Muskie any type of banking, any of that. I'm not
Hmm.
giving you if you're saying that in order and I don't know how he's going to implement that on this one app that is basically a micro blogging site. You can't
Ain't
force people to use banking things. You can't force people in this one it's going this app is cluttered enough as is with the
right.
UI changes that they've made.
Mhm.
How was it did he even think this through? I don't think so, to answer my own question, but feasibly, how can one app manage all of these things? That's why we
Right,
have different apps for different things because just the mere low people are getting fail whales from just tweeting. What do
right,
you think is going to happen when you start adding in all of these other services to
right,
this one single app?
right.
Bro, you didn't pay your Google bill.
Google Cloud,
Right.
service.
You didn't pay that. And then you were trying to talk about rate limits. Like, bro, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing?
There's evidence of something like this being used. Um, I think WeChat and some of these other overseas Chinese companies' apps, to where the users who utilize these apps use this app and this app alone, and it
Mhm,
does do a lot of the things that they needed to do: message friends and family, accept payments, find out what's going on in the news, right? Find out
mhm.
what people are talking about, use it as a main means and method for communication. So there is evidence that services out there like this kind of exist. The only problem is the reason why they exist is because those governments are so restrictive.
Control right.
So these people have been, forced
They don't have
to
any other options.
they don't have any other options. So they're forced to use these services for more than what they are initially intended for, and they've just evolved into what they are now. I don't think that's
Right,
going to fly over here because we have a bunch of options. We're not as
right.
restricted,
And we're
right?
not as restricted. I think the key is the
Mhm,
restriction. It's so micromanaged because it is a dictatorship over
mhm.
there
Right.
that what they have access to, what they can use, the bandwidth that they can even use is
Mhm,
so limited that you can have a single app to manage the traffic of the what how many people are in China? Like over a billion? You know, that it makes sense in their framework to do that. We got too much freedom over here and open market, so to speak,
right. And
using
it
that
could
terms. It just won't work.
Right. And it could also be a way, again, my whole thing is, Twitter being profitable, right? Him
Yeah,
bringing in these other services means that he could possibly charge for those services
charge.
or extract a fee from processing, if we're just, let's use payments as an example,
Mhm,
PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. They're not services that are just here that we use for free because
mhm,
the people wanted to be nice and offer a fast, convenient way for us to send and accept payments. They make
mhm.
money,
Yeah,
processing fees, charging fees, whatever fees you so, Musk again in his attempt to turn this thing around from being a total loss is like, I need to figure out to how do I build services into Twitter that I can charge for, which is why he's been trying to limit the amount of tweets to try to force people to go into Twitter Blue, the whole check mark thing, all these other. He's like, all right, what else can I do to build profitability into Twitter? All right, well, let's bring in some financial services. Let's bring
yeah.
in maybe some cloud storage services. Let's do everything that I can charge so I can turn this thing around and don't look like I just bought this pile of garbage.
Yeah, and it's like but you should take a hint from the amount of people that bought Twitter Blue that you're not really you're gonna be very hard pressed to get people to
Mhm,
buy in to these other services, especially for me, it's the financial services. Like, given the way that this app is held together with
mhm,
gum and a Band-Aid,
mhm,
you think I'm going to give my financial information to this? Are you
mhm,
insane? So, if he had people that he actually listened to and people who would be honest with him and say, "Look at what we've restricted already for non-verified users and look at the number of people who bought the verification as compared to the number of people who were on Twitter. That should give you a scale of what you can likely expect for any of these other services you're adding. you're not going to get the revenue for the additional amount of work that's going to have to be expended to create these other flows or apps or services that are going to be built in to this new version of Twitter. Oh, buddy, he is. God bless him, because that's all I got. All right, TikTok. You put this in here. You want to give us a little rundown on this
Well,
particular
so
one?
basically, people past couple weeks, I hate Twitter. I hate it here. I'm leaving. I don't like Elon Musk. The the service is unusable. I don't. This doesn't look like the Twitter that I'm used to. So a lot of companies have tried to capitalize on that thoughts and sentiment by the users. So we've got all these other new apps coming up. You got Spill. You got Instagram or
Threads.
Meta's Threads, all trying to do the what's the meme where Dave Chappelle is dressed up as Prince. He's doing the come
Oh,
here
oh
sign. Yeah,
yeah.
right, right. All of these other companies, third party social media apps are trying to capitalize and gain these new users as a result of we hate Twitter sentiment, TikTok, being one of them. They have decided that they're going to allow users to create text only posts, similar to how the main way you interact with Twitter is using putting up tweets, right? Which are mostly text. Now you can have, of course, you can add pictures, you can add videos now, but before it started off as text only. TikTok, the other way around, started off as video. You can put your captions and explain what the video about is, but the main thing you're watching is these short form videos. Well, since the sentiment is we hate Twitter, we're leaving Twitter. Since Twitter is a primarily text only thing, TikTok is like, all right, we need to add text only posts to allow people to where if they want to post a quick message on TikTok, they don't have to go find a video. They don't have to create a video. They don't have to cut and copy and edit and filterize and do all the things to make a TikTok video. Now you can use TikTok, put up a text only post and hit publish, and that'll go out to all of your viewers or whatever, like I said, in hopes to suck in those people who are familiar or are so accustomed to using Twitter's text only format to get their message across.
Interesting.
So the
Yeah,
question
I
is, will that work? Will people accustomed to TikTok and accustomed to using TikTok again, similar to this previous conversation, people are so used to using TikTok and so used to
for short form
consuming
videos, yeah.
for videos, will people that are compartmentalized using TikTok as for videos, will they also use it for text only videos or
I
text
think
only posts?
a small portion would, but the one of the best parts of TikTok is you can just scroll and watch short, funny videos because again, people have the attention span of a gnat.
Hmm.
Now I can't just scroll, like I think I mentioned before, they have like the thing you can buy on Amazon where you just put on your finger and it you can control, your TikTok feed with
Hmm.
just the little thing on your finger. And people are used to just doing that. They aren't used to having to
Stop and
you
read.
know, stop and read, or even when they make comments to other people's posts, it's not something that's just they'll make a post when they're like really compelled. Otherwise, it's just
It's for
scrolling, or whatever.
consumption. Mhm.
Consumption. It's strictly consumption. It's not very much of an interactive kind of
Not for me.
engaging type
I
of
think
thing.
I've put
Not for most people.
I
Yeah.
think I've put 1 TikTok video, and I was like, "I'm not doing that again." Simply
Yeah.
because Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I did the same thing. I put a post for one of our hookup segments,
Mhm.
and I was like, let me see kind of, how this would work, the type of engagement. I put that thing on there and it did get some engagement, but I was like, that's
A lot
a
of work.
lot. Because as soon and honestly, it's just you get assaulted as soon as you open the TikTok app. It's just like the images and the video, it just assaults you, and it's like, "Wait a minute, whoa,
Right.
slow down.
So
Give the girl dinner first before you just go in for the kill."
right. So maybe,
Jeez.
I don't know, maybe TikTok, this new text only thing is for us. People who maybe just
Maybe.
wanna put up a quick text or, a message using text only and not have to curate an experience just to get some
Yeah,
interaction engagement on TikTok.
yeah, because that thing is
Maybe,
TikTok is a
maybe not.
beast. Oof.
But again, like I said, all of these, somebody made a good point. Just like all of these social media companies are, seems like they're not happy with the experience that they have provided users, and they're always, which I guess is good business. You're always trying to evolve, you're always trying to grow, but it seems like it's something different with these social media companies. They're like us. We have a short attention span. So it
Mhm.
seems like these social media companies also are like, what are the kids talking about now? What are the kids doing now? Let's
What's the
take that and
trend? What
do
we
it.
gotta get on? What's on
Just
fleek?
right.
What's the hot moment of the hot thing of the moment?
Without, considering, all right, is does this fit our mission and vision statement, right? Does this fit how our users use the platform? Will they like it? Well, it's just like, put it in there and see if it works. If it don't, we'll just pull it out, and what damn the the overall, not destruction, the overall, negativity that comes with, this turning into something that I didn't sign up for as a user.
You said something very insightful, about the mission statement of the company. A lot of these social media companies, they probably have a mission statement, but I don't think the work that they do is driving towards that mission statement. Think of Instagram. Before, Instagram was just pictures. You just put your pictures on there and you keep it moving. And now you got videos, you got stories, you got reels, you got all this stuff. That's not what people wanted Instagram for. It was to post pictures
Mhm,
and keep it moving. Now you got all this stuff. Facebook was always kind of a bit of a mosh posh, but then now you got marketplace, you got Facebook dating, you got all these, like you said, I think it's just a money grab at this point. It's very trend of the moment focus. What can
mhm,
we make a quick buck off of?
mhm,
What are the kids talking about? What are black folks talking about? Let's throw that in there. Let's make some money off that. Then when they're off that, we'll pull that and then we'll add something else in. I really think that's the crux of the issue.
mhm.
You have a mission statement, you have a goal for your company, but is what you're delivering aligned with that? And I
Right.
think in the answer to that is no in most of these social media platforms.
And especially if they are also still trying to figure out, how do we profit from this? And I'm not saying Instagram ain't profitable. I'm not saying Facebook isn't profitable, but you know, when most business is, you provide a service, I need that service. In exchange for your service, I pay you money. We don't
Mhm,
use social media like that. I don't pay $1 a month to use Twitter, or $12 a year to use Instagram, right? That is the exchange that normally we think of with business, right? We
mhm,
just use these apps for free. So I think maybe these companies are like, well, we can change whatever, because we ain't charging you for it. We're charging the advertisers, we're charging the sponsors, we're charging whatever partners or whatever the case may be. So as long as we keep them happy, damn the end users, because y'all using it for free anyway. So shut up. So whatever we
mhm.
put out here is what you're going to have to use. But again, the users are what create the majority of the content. So you would think that, going back to the mission and vision statement, the reason why I signed onto the app in the first place was
Mhm.
because it had this unique experience. And if you go changing that experience just because you think, oh, they're just users, who cares? That eventually you're going to have a Twitter where people are like, you know what, I'm off this now.
Yeah,
And they ain't
yeah.
learning no lessons from what Twitter's going through right now, because they doing the exact same thing.
Exact same thing. Exact same thing. Oh well, I don't know what the social media landscape is going to ultimately be because again, it's like the Wild Wild West out here.
Mhm.
All right, last thing up. So, of course, AI has been a very heavy topic. We've talked a lot about it. Some of the things that I've mentioned is, needing guardrails on AI as it relates to the consumer. Well, it looks like the White House pulled together the heads of 7 companies, and they had a conversation about how to deliver safe and transparent AI. Companies included Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Inflection, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI, but no Apple, which is interesting to some folks. But all these people came together. I saw a picture of all the heads, all white, all male. So, yeah, you
That
know,
is it is what it is with that
it is
one.
what it is, and, you're talking about transparency and safety when you basically have the perception of one segment of the population. That's a topic
And
for another day.
it's voluntary.
Right, absolutely voluntary, and this was basically a conversation. They made commitments,
Mhm.
but there was nothing,
Ironclad.
regulatory focus. There was
Mhm.
nothing that was going to hold people accountable
Mhm.
for, some of these things that they talked about.
Mhm.
To me, it was basically just an exercise in
Photo op.
appearing to do something
Mhm.
when, there's no plan to do that because any way that they can make money from AI, whether it be ethical or unethical, they are going to do that. Again, I think it was, like you said, a photo op. It was definitely a C. Everybody's worried about AI, but look at us. We're
We're
coming
on top
together
of
and
it.
we're talking to the White House and we're going to talk about how we're going to make it safe for everybody.
Mhm.
When, we already know what it is. So my thought is that why Apple chose not to participate because they knew what it was, or did they just be like,
Well, so here's what we talked about this earlier, right? Apple is using AI. There's no doubt that Apple is integrating AI. They're integrating large language models. They're integrating machine learning. They're integrating all this in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it be end user specific or internal use only. We know Apple has a hand in AI and or has plans to integrate it into how they provide a service for their customers, right? We just don't know what it is. Apple is kind of like wait and see, right?
mhm,
Versus some of these other companies that were at this summit or meeting or whatever you want to call it. Let me go back and list some of these companies again: Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI. These are the companies, in my opinion, that are already full speed ahead with trying to figure out how to make as much money
absolutely.
as possible using AI and no breaks whatsoever as it comes to how they're going to keep people safe, how they're going to keep data from, turning into something else. And we as the consumers are like, everybody and their mama is putting out these be be warned, be warned, be warned.
Mhm,
So these companies that are already full steam ahead, it's like, well, what can we do to kind of mitigate that to kind of not damage control, but it's almost like, well, what do we do to ensure? What can we do to ensure people right now that we have their best interests at heart without m- creating policy or without actually creating standards and coming together amongst themselves and creating a committee, right? We don't want to do any work. We want to be full steam ahead, but at the same time we want to curry some favor with the people. How do we do that? Let's just go to the White House, right? The reason why, in my opinion, Apple isn't there is because they are not yet full steam ahead. They
mhm.
also want to wait and see, and they, you know, bias. You call me biased, that's fine. they are also like, all right, well, let's figure out the best way to deploy this and have all of those security data, infrastructure features at already set up before we deploy something. Apple's like, well, we ain't that far yet. We ain't full steam ahead
Right.
like y'all are. So y'all go ahead and do that. Try to assure the people, and we'll just wait and see. Right. So I don't think it's, a matter of fact of Apple like this is performative. They're like, yeah, we're already doing this stuff. So ain't no need to have a meeting about it because we're doing it right now. We don't have any consumer facing products right now that are at the same level as some of these other companies out here that's got full-fledged products, and they're in the process of figuring out how they're going to charge people for them because that's the whole point, is to make money off this thing. Apple's kind of like, yeah, let's pump the brakes a little bit. And we don't need the government to tell us to pump the brakes because we're pumping the brakes already.
Right, right. And the biggest thing is, again, these are commitments or agreements
Pledges.
or, yeah, that, don't really have any meat to it, don't have really any weight to it. And the last line, the last couple sentences in this article says the government is also developing an executive order and pursuing bipartisan legislation to promote responsible AI innovation. Word salad, word salad, word salad. And we know how swift the government moves when it comes to executive orders and legislation. So by the time the government actually gets to the point of
Mhm.
putting this into place, how far down the road are these huge companies, even, let me say, even more further down the road,
Mhm.
are these companies going to be? And are these regulations or executive orders or legislation that they're putting in place, is it going to be retroactive or is it only going to be from the point in time? So it's a lot of questions,
Right.
um,
Which
and not a lot of answers.
Right, which if these companies were really sincere about all of these things that they have pledged or committed to in this meeting, they would have pledged and been committed to these things before they rolled out their
Mhm.
technology.
Yep. Or
They
they would have already put the guardrails on themselves,
Right,
but they
right.
didn't.
Right. They didn't do none of that, and the murmurs, the disgruntlement, the sentiment of "This is dangerous" is growing. So now they're like, not damage control, but they need some good press. So
Right.
they've had this meeting and pledged and committed these things, which are good things. I'm not poo-pooing any of these things that they have said. The
Right.
questions are is there any teeth to it? And is it too late? Because you're already
Yeah.
doing it.
Right. Those are the questions. And again, like you said, it's really just a PR publicity type move to me to make it seem like they're actually doing something when, you know, what are they really doing?
Mhm.
Or is it too late? Like you said.
Right.
So interesting, interesting. That is going to wrap up second string. We're going to head over to further culture, where we talk about anything culturally relevant, whether it be in social media, whether it be in society, or just something interesting or funny that we found of interest. So I saw this particular thing on Twitter, and it was basically just a screenshot of a headline from the Washington Post. And basically, um, someone, what was the guy's name? Used,
Gilliam
uh,
Brokeell.
yes. Um, he did an interview with Harriett Tubman via AI.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the things is, what was the point of this? There are already archives in the Smithsonian and in museums
With the interviews.
with actual interviews
Mhm.
with Harriet Tubman.
Mhm.
So, why
Mm.
did they feel the need to have a fake AI conversation with Harriet Tubman when we already have real interviews
Well,
with
it's I can
Harriet
tell you
Tubman?
yeah, I can tell you why, but it is maybe with somebody else, maybe with Abraham Lincoln, maybe with George Washington. I don't know, but
Somebody who we don't already have this information
well, well, not just that,
for.
right? I think it's more than that because it's Harriet Tubman, and we will never know the thought processes, the decisions, the everyday struggle that went into Harriet Tubman doing the things that she did, right?
Mhm,
We know why, because it was to free slaves, because it was
mhm.
immoral, it was wrong. She felt like she had to do something, right? But to think that you can use live chats and AI to to recreate the inner workings of somebody on this type of mission, that's almost akin.
Right.
I'm not comparing, please don't burn me for this, but that's almost like trying to have a conversation with like Jesus Christ. Who knows what
What
everybody
data
wants
did
to
they
know.
train to get this information?
Yeah,
Like,
how do you research to put into words what it was like for her
to be
to
this woman.
lead this type of movement to free slaves and some of the situations and scenarios that she ran into and her own thoughts and processes to go into that. It's almost a little disrespectful to
Very
think that
disrespectful.
you could try to recreate that. You know what I'm saying? Um
Yeah. It's like, how how are you able to form the words for what this woman must have thought, what she must have felt to live the life that she lived,
mhm.
to experience the things that she experienced, the horrible things, the atrocious things she had to experience? What makes you, whoever trained this data, think that you would know what she felt, how
And
she
then
felt, and be
and
able
then
to have this interview where ask her these questions like
and expect to get the
a
real
legitimate answer.
or yeah, the real thought process. But
Right.
again, this is what happens when you have money and you have resources. The guy
No
says,
sense.
I was curious to see what would happen when I had my own interview. That is that's what you wanted. That's the reason why you spent all this money and developed all this stuff because you just wanted to see what it was like to have my own event, not for historical reasons, not for to
To gain insight into this
right,
revolutionary
right,
figure.
right, so it's like pick somebody else, pick, I don't know, anybody, not anybody else, because like I said, Harriet Tubman is like a legend, and if not the model for um
Revolution.
revolution, right? So to think that you can, you know, package that up into an interview from a guy that is an online educator, created the online educator Khan Academy. Any
Who is
even
neither black, who is neither female to like,
yeah, yeah.
really?
This is not the United States government. This is not the Smithsonian. This is not, this is the
It's
Khan
some rich
Academy.
dude.
It's the Khan Academy. It's like, relax. You're not that important, you know.
And what's it, I don't even know, a Conamigo? Conmigo? That's what the tool is called?
Yeah,
Conmigo?
I don't know.
And it uses chat for technology.
And I guess ultimately he's probably using this to show off the power of this Camigo slash chat for technology to enable live chats with multiple simulated historical figures such as Winston Churchill.
Why you didn't start with Winston Churchill? There's plenty of audio of him. He was a freaking prime minister of the
But he
UK. You got plenty of material.
but even still, it's like with anybody, how can you without artificial like true artificial intelligence? This ain't
Mhm.
the artificial intelligence that we're talking about. I'm talking about the only way I can see you doing this is with like real artificial intelligence actually thinking, right?
Yeah.
This none of this stuff we're using up until right now is not thinking.
It's
It's
not any
using
critical thought behind it. It's just
right.
actual text.
It's using information that we already know to
Right.
formulate a sentence based on stuff that's already historical stuff that's already happened, not
Right.
thinking in the future. So to be able to think that you can sit down with a Winston Churchill or Harriet Tubman and have this conversation based on historical stuff and current thought processes of an actual brain, it's kind
Mhm.
of disrespectful
Yeah.
if you ask
Yeah.
me.
And honestly, there are better uses for AI than this. It really
Mm,
is.
I need
I
you to
I
figure out how to make my car talk to me. I don't want to talk to Harriet Tubman. Not to say I
Leave that
wouldn't
woman
enjoy the
alone.
conversation, but
Right. It would be
ex-
interesting, but you
I
gotta
need
do if you're going after, you know, Harriet Tubman and what she would've what a modern conversation would be with her. I mean, you gotta dream bigger, dude. This is you're dreaming really small
mhm.
for lack of a better term for this. She deserves more. Even Winston Churchill, would deserve more from this, not for this just to be "Ooh, it would be kinda cool to
Yeah,
kinda
look what I can
see
do.
what this is."
Right. It's kind
It's
yeah, like I said, it's like a look what I can do. And if that's the case,
right.
do it with something else. Do it with somebody else.
What was the show, Mad TV Steward? "Look what I
Mhm.
can do." And he'd
Right.
do, like, the freaky moves or whatever. Like, that's what that is. It's
Yeah.
like, there's no real substantive nature behind any of this, so
Yeah, my whole thing about AI is, I haven't figured out a use case, the perfect the eureka use case. This
mhm,
certainly is not it.
it is not it.
Not what I was
It
thinking
is
of, when
no.
I think about what we use AI for.
Or put a little more effort into it because this effort is not that great, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah. Alright, that is going to wrap it up for the culture. Let's head on in for our tech tip of the week with the hookup.
All right, all right. So I run into this problem a lot to where I'm holding my phone pretty tight, and since iPhones already have very very small bezels, the iPhone is detecting my um, input from my whether it be my palm or my thumb or whatever that's resting on the screen. And if you hold the home screen long enough, the apps will jiggle and will ask you if you want to delete them. And if you hold it too long, you may accidentally delete some apps that you never knew you deleted from your home screen. So if you want to stop that from happening, it's not a direct way to use it. There's no formal don't delete apps from the home screen, but you can actually turn on screen time, and one of the features in screen time is to enable don't allow when you delete apps. Again, it's not for accidental deletions. It's for like if I have a kid and I don't want them installing or deleting apps from their device without my permission, I can turn on screen time and then enable that don't allow deletion. So that'll kind of in an effect stop you from deleting apps from the home screen. And basically the way you do that is you open up the iPhone settings, go to screen time. You first have to enable screen time, which lets you'll have to set a code different than the lock screen code to turn on and off screen time. Once you enable screen time, you go to iTunes and App Store purchases, and then you have to set the deleting apps option to don't allow. Once you do that, even though you will see the little jiggle if you hold the button to screen, hold your finger on the screen for too long, and you try to delete an app, it won't let you do it unless you enter the screen time code, and then you can. So that's extra steps before you actually have to delete an app. So that is my tip for the week. If you want to stop yourself from accidentally deleting apps on your phone accidentally, you can actually turn on screen time and set your deleting apps to don't allow.
Perfect. And with that, that is going to wrap up the show for this week. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva on all of the social media apps as well. Again, if you want to connect, comment, share, or support our show, you can head on over to snobwestcast.com to get all of the details. And with that, that's going to wrap up the show this week. Stay safe out there, everybody, because the temperature is super high this week. So stay hydrated and stay safe. That's going to wrap it up.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.